That was a word. Amen. Oh, I told myself I'm going to get through this, so I'm going to try.
Bless you.
Good morning, Reverend Dr. Granger, Angelin Browning, Reverend Dr. Edward L. Hunt, Pulpit Associates, officials, Billie family and friends. My name is Danielle Joyner, and on behalf of the youth ministry at Bethel Missionary Baptist Church in Wappingers Falls, New York, where my pastor is Dr. Edward L. Hunt, we bring you greetings and condolences. As one of the youth leaders of the church, to know Ashanti is to love her. Proverbs 31:25 says, "She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future." And that was Ashanti. When Ashanti would visit her extended New York family, she made her presence known within BMBC, and with her bubbly and quirky personality, she was always ready to lend a helping hand. Though only on this earth for 19 years, she clearly impacted the lives of the youth at Bethel Missionary Baptist Church. The youth continually shared stories of her bubbly personality and big, bright smile, and like myself, her quirky sense of style. Out of the stories shared, one young lady who kind of stayed to herself most of the time stated that Ashanti was one of the only people who would reach out to talk to her. Ashanti was also a nurturer. At the various youth retreats Ashanti attended, after a full day of activity, she made sure all the young ladies took their showers. Sometimes the adults would have to tell Ashanti to go play with the kids because she was always trying to help the adults out. My last memory of Ashanti was a dance battle between her and I. She always beat me when it came to the drop and the nay-nay. She would always teach me how to beef it up, too, with Zaymani and Kristen. And Pops, too. Pops used to kill the beef it up. Her extended family over at BMBC, following Youth Sunday service last Sunday, held a candlelight vigil to celebrate the life of our sister Ashanti. At the vigil, 19 balloons were released in remembrance of our fallen sister, 18 white to represent her innocence, and 1 green to represent awareness of missing and exploited children. Someone once said the only consolation of saying goodbye to someone you love is the glimmer of hope that someday, after that goodbye, there will be another hello. And I'm here to let you guys know this. This is not goodbye. Ashanti, my quirky soul sister, until we meet again, Queen, rest in peace with the Lord, baby girl.
God bless you. Praise the Lord for all of the tributes. We give God praise for Ashanti's life and what she has meant. And at this time, there will be the Crown to Soul Mind Ministry will now do a selection. Would you please give them a hand praise as they prepare to come now? God bless you.
Can you give the Crown to Soul Mind Ministry of Bethel Missionary Baptist Church a hand praise? The Reverend Dr. Hunt was sharing with me that Tony mentored them and trained them. We thank the Lord for Father seeing his handiwork being blessed in Jesus' name. We're going to ask that once again that the church family of Bethel Missionary Baptist Church will please stand. We are so honored and blessed that the Reverend Dr. Edward Hunt is here, and we want to say thank you. And again, we praise the Lord for your presence here. My wife, Pastor Joanne Browning, and myself are honored and blessed to be able to be the church by which this homegoing celebration is taking place. And can you look at someone and say, this is a homegoing celebration for a life that is a blessing. We did not have the honor or the privilege ever to meet Ashanti. And when the family came and asked if we could host and be the place where this homegoing celebration could take place, we said, most certainly, because this church does not belong to the members of Ebenezer, but it belongs to this community. And because it belongs to the community, whatever we can do for the community, we want to do. So I want to say thank you for this honor. We had a chance to meet Brother and Sister Billie a couple of days ago for the first time, and I dare say I've not met a couple or a family that has had greater strength during a time of greater tragedy. And it's been our honor, my wife and I's honor, to meet you and to be able to be a part of your life now. But also we're so blessed today to have persons from Wise High School who are here today. If you are a part of Wise High School in any way, if you could please stand. We want to praise the Lord for those who are out of town. They are the #1 football team in the DMV area. We give the Lord's name the praise, but more importantly, academically, they are outstanding as well. And then we are also blessed to have so many who've come from the culinary arts of the Art Institute in Virginia Beach. If they could please stand. And we want to give the Lord's name the praise for meeting today as well. Again, we just want to say thank you to this family. We realize that there's no greater tragedy than what you could face, but I also praise the Lord for what I've learned from you. My father went home to be with the Lord in July of this year, and right before his homegoing, they had to amputate his leg. And after he came from surgery, we assumed he was going to be depressed, but he came from surgery singing, I Won't Complain. But more than what he sang is what he said. He said, if you can't change the situation, change your attitude about it. And I thank the Lord that the family cannot change the situation, but I thank God they've turned their pain into power. And I thank the Lord for the scholarship that will be established at Wise Senior High School, and we give the Lord's name the honor, the praise, and the glory. Reverend Dr. Hunt will be sharing how God is using them as a way by which those who are missing children will have a voice as well as power.
Hi guys, Molly here in the newsroom at Fox 5 DC. You're watching right now this coverage of the funeral for Ashanti Billie. She's being remembered here, the 19-year-old who was from Prince George's County that was found murdered in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now this funeral is sort of wrapping up right now, but I do want to let you know, if you want to see it in full, it is on our Facebook page. Once the stream wraps up, you can kind of stop it and go back. It was a pretty long ceremony, so it seems like it is kind of wrapping up right now. So I want to bring you to a split shot screen right now. We're going to jump right over to Napa County, where officials are giving an update on the wildfires there. And then we'll kind of jump around. We have President Trump coming up shortly with, he'll be signing a order on his thoughts on Iran's strategy, and also another clip that we have from earlier this morning when he spoke at the Value Voters Summit here in Washington, D.C. So I apologize, I'm a little under the weather. Long night, long Nats Game 5 that obviously ended in a defeat for the Nationals, and it was a tough one. So that's sort of the status right now that's going on in our newsroom. People aren't super thrilled with those results, but hey, we made it to the NLDS, and that was a fun ride. So anyway, let's jump in now to this Napa County update.
My name is Chris Childs, and I'm the commander of the Napa CHP area. I'd like to let you know first and foremost that your CHP resources continue to be deployed at a maximum level here in Napa and Sonoma counties. I'm proud of the hard work that the women and men of the California Highway Patrol, along with our allied agency partners and law enforcement personnel, are doing to keep people safe in our community. I'm also happy to let you know that we have been able to open certain roads. We've worked closely with CAL FIRE and the Napa Sheriff's Department to open some areas of eastern Napa County to the following. The avenues have been opened up, as well as Monticello Park, so people can return to their homes in those areas. Silverado Country Club has been opened up to residents only, and I'd like to repeat that, to residents only. We're asking that everyone else stay away besides the residents. We need to get those people back first. There continues to be work happening in those areas. You've got critical infrastructure, trucks and crews in there trying to reestablish power and trying to reestablish water service. And I'd like to remind all the residents as they go back in that just because the roadways may be open does not mean that you will have lights and water, so please prepare accordingly. And finally, I'd like to say just a few words to the people of this community. I continue to be impressed in my position, watching the support that you give each other, watching the support that you give to all of the people standing behind me and all of their work crews everywhere for the great work that they're doing. Thank you for your community spirit. Napa is unlike any community that I've worked in, and I've had the opportunity to work all over the state. So thank you from the California Highway Patrol to the community at large here in this area. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Karen Reluccio. I'm the Public Health Officer for Napa County. So as positive developments are underway with the fire, and that means we need to plan for repopulation. So when doing that, I want to urge caution in going back to your properties. So when you're going back to sites that may have been burned, wear protective equipment such as an N95 mask, goggles, construction boots, and clothing that covers your arms or legs, and as well as gloves. Do not touch the toxic debris with your bare hands. We are working on a debris management plan to remove any toxic household waste that may have been burned in the fire. Additionally, if you have food that's left in a refrigerator where power was out, do not eat that food. If you have non-perishable items that are left over after the burn, do not eat that either, because that is contaminated. So we just want to make sure, as you're able to repopulate your homes, that you remain safe. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ryan Gregory, Supervisor, District 2. District 2 is the section of Napa County, including Mount Veeder and the city of Napa, on the edges of that fire. I want to thank the media for being here and helping us share our message with those out there that are concerned. There's my friends and constituents up on the mountain. They want to know what's happened to their house. Access is very limited. I can't answer that. I would ask all those folks to please go out, find the maps that are online, and do your best to interpret those and see how you stand. There's lots of maps and websites out there, so go find those. And as soon as we can get you up there to look at it, we will. There's also all my friends and constituents that live on the edge of the city. They're watching this fire come towards them. No news is good news. No evacuation order means you're okay, but keep an eye out. And I'll tell you what, the minute that neighborhood has to get evacuated, I live there with you by Alston Park, I'll be there evacuating with you. But no news is good news, but stay tuned and watch how this fire is moving. The information is out there. Thank you. And I just want to reiterate, for our area, the evacuation centers are the Crosswalk Community Church, Napa Valley College, and the Solano Community College. Thank you.
Good morning. Diane Dillon, Napa County Supervisor, representing District 3, which is the upper half of Napa County. I'm here to address the issue of the Tubbs fire, which, as we all know, started in the area outside of Calistoga, went to Sonoma, and then we had a flare-up, resulting in a mandatory evacuation of the entire
I want to show you guys
city
quickly,
of
right below my
Calistoga.
face is a live shot going on in Napa and or Sonoma County. You can kind of just check in to see what it actually looks like, what these officials are talking about when they're referring to what's going on and sort of the cleanup and how extensive the damage has been. So take a look at that. We won't bring up the volume there, but you can listen in, continue to listen in on this press conference for the updates. All right, we'll be back in the studio in just a little bit, guys. Check it out.
About their efforts. That said, Calistoga, City of Calistoga, and the surrounding unincorporated area is under a mandatory evacuation. We ask that people not go there. We ask, there are a few residents remaining. We ask that they leave the city so our law enforcement, our safety personnel, our firefighters can do their job. For Calistogans that were evacuated, the two shelters are Napa College and the American Canyon High School. Napa College here in Napa on the Napa-Vallejo Highway, and American Canyon High School, which is at 3000 Newell Drive. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Alfredo Pedroza, County Supervisor for the 4th District. Thank you for being here again and helping us share the message. An update on the Atlas Peak fire. We have over 43,000 acres burnt. We do have some good news to share. We increased our containment from 3% up to 27%, and that's done by the great work of the men and women at CAL FIRE. In addition, we also have some other news to share. Is we did allow some areas of District 4 to repopulate. As was said earlier, areas of Monticello Park, Silverado Country Club, and I can't underscore enough, we need to make sure that it's still safe. So we understand the temptation to go out and look at the devastation, but right now we need to make sure everyone is safe. Number one priority. But I do want to say special thanks to the CAL FIRE, to our Sheriff's Department, PG&E, CHP. They are working tirelessly around the clock to allow us to get back to our homes safely. Thank you very much for being here.
I am Brad Wagonconnect, District 1 Supervisor, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the advisory evacuations. A lot of the advisory evacuations happened yesterday. Everything east of 121 from Monticello Road, east of Silverado Trail between Trancas and Saskell, east of Saskell Avenue between Silverado and West Imola, east of Highway 29 between Highway 29 and 120 and 221 in Jameson Canyon, and north of Jameson Canyon between Highway 12 and the Napa-Solano County line. We also, last night with the Nuns Fire peaking its head over Mount St. John's, we've done an advisory evacuation for west of Highway 29, Oakville Grade to Rutherford Road. An advisory evacuation doesn't mean you have to go immediately. It means that you should be prepared to go. And some people have taken that as a time to leave. My father-in-law, I went by and checked, he's in one of the advisory, and he is safe and well in Colfax with my brother-in-law. All mandatory evacuations are still in effect unless you've heard differently today. We are still impressing upon people that safe and well is our way of getting to know who is missing and who is not. Safeandwell.org, SAFEANDWELL.org.
I would like to thank PG&E for their presence here. Truly, they are one of our first responders in the team, and they have deployed their resources here, setting up base camp in Napa County. At this time, we continue to have 5,700 people out of power this morning. But since the beginning of this incident, PG&E has worked very hard to restore power to 25,000 residents. And keep in mind, they've got crews from all around the state. I understand that Southern California sent some mutual aid gas crews here as well, and we thank PG&E for getting our residents back to some level of normalcy as they're able to re-enter their homes. I would like to say that certainly we know that Napa County is a very welcoming and diverse place, but there are some concerns about the safety of our residents at shelters, the safety of our residents, and reaching out to the County of Napa. Earlier this year, The Board of Supervisors, through Supervisor Pedroza, proclaimed that we are a welcoming community here in Napa County, and that cannot be more true right now. Regardless of race, regardless of immigration status, regardless of age, sex, creed, sexual orientation, religion, you are welcome in our shelters. We want you to come in. We do not want anyone sleeping in their cars. We do not want anyone in harm's way. We do not want you to fear leaving your home because you do not have a place to stay. As long as we have mandatory evacuations, we are going to have shelters. And I will tell you that immigration is not a concern. Through the work of our Congressman Thompson, who will speak to you momentarily, he has received commitments from the Department of Homeland Security that today will issue the following statement. Quote, ICE is deeply concerned by the devastation wildfires have caused in significant portions of Northern California. Our thoughts remain with those impacted by this tragedy, while our highest priority remains the preservation of life and safety wherever possible. In consideration of these distressing circumstances, ICE will continue to suspend routine immigration enforcement operations in the areas affected by the fires in Northern California, except in the event of a serious criminal presenting a public safety threat. Likewise, immigration enforcement will not be conducted at evacuation sites or assistance centers such as shelters or food banks. Rest assured, Napa, you are safe in the hands of Napa County. I will quickly say in Spanish, por favor, para los que están viendo este video sobre Facebook Live, para agarrar más información, por favor, vea el Facebook del Condado de Napa. Aquí en el Condado de Napa no hay peligro de inmigración. Inmigración le ha asegurado al congresista Thompson que ellos no van a estar presentes aquí en el condado. Quiero que ustedes no duerman en sus carros, que no estén en peligro. Por favor, vengan a nuestros centros de evacuación. Nosotros les damos un lugar donde se pueden quedar a dormir, les damos algo de comer. Confía en mí, confía en nosotros, yo les doy mi palabra. Aquí están seguros con nosotros. We continue to share information through all of our social media platforms of Facebook, of Twitter, and of course the county's website. We continue to have cell phone issues, but I could tell you that last night the California Public Utilities Commission reached out to me and said to all our supervisors and said that they're here ready to assist us in that communication. And we know that our crews of the various communications companies are working very hard, and we thank them for that. Last night we did have a meeting in Spanish at St. John's Catholic Church, and that meeting is available on the county's Facebook page. It was streamed live and it's stored there. Make sure you sign up for Nixle. I've said it. Text your zip code to 888-777. That's 888, the number 777. Make sure you text your zip code. We'll continue to partner with you, our media partners, and we continue to ask our county employees to check in with heads of where they're most needed, and we thank you for all your sacrifices. This communication, this outward communication would not be possible without the men and women that comprise Napa County. At this time, I invite up our Congressman, Mike Thompson, and our State Senator, Bill Dodd.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm so appreciative of all the resources that we have here in Napa County. Like Congressman Thompson, we represent to get 3 or 4 different counties where this fire is, impacting, our constituents. But I'll tell you, right here, embedded in this building and embedded in the Napa Town and Country Fairgrounds, are CAL FIRE and the management of this incident and all the infrastructure people. But even units that are coming, from all 58 counties. We have the California National Guard in here now. We have all the resources to be able to make this happen. God willing that we have the weather to make it happen, quicker. I do appreciate all of you getting the word out. I'd like to thank my colleague, Senator Scott Wiener from San Francisco, for being here this morning to support us and our constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate the fact that behind us is illustrative of the incredible team that's working 24/7 on this tragedy and for the people of our area. These guys are second to none. They've been absolutely fabulous. Senator Dodd mentioned the fact that there's mutual aid from throughout the state. There's also mutual aid from across the country. There are units on the ground on this fire from states as far away as the South and to the east in Pennsylvania. There's folks, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Arizona. We have national mutual aid assistance with the Department of Defense, all of the forestry firefighting assets that we have available, and we also have international mutual aid. We have firefighters here from Canada and firefighters here from Australia. They're doing everything they can. They're doing a fantastic job. The only thing that I ask of you is to make sure that you let them do that job. It's important to follow the directions of law enforcement and our firefighters. Get out of their way, let them do their job, listen to them, ground your drones, stay out of closed areas, and we'll get everybody back on their feet as soon as possible. Thank you.
Last night, I had the opportunity to talk with Supervisor James Gore of Sonoma County. And what I'll say to Sonoma County is we feel for you. And we're in this together. We are now sharing a whole lot more to fires here within our boundary areas. And the amount of love that the world is showing to our region, to the county of Napa, is overwhelming. We will continue to monitor the weather. Certainly we know that there's some unfavorable weather headed our way, but the crews are arriving on an hourly basis. The number of fire crews on those lines, establishing those primary and secondary lines to protect you, Napa, it's heartening. And so I say to you, keep cheering for those fire crews. Everyone is on Team Napa. We'll take questions.
Can you talk to Chief Behrman?
Sure.
Has have any drones grounded any of the air attacks?
We've had some reported drone activity in areas that were not being utilized by aircraft that was quickly mitigated. So I'm not aware of anything yet. But this is the time in the incident where we start to see people reaching out beyond what they're currently seeing without one. So it's a problem on a lot of our fires that continue for a period of time. So I'm just asking that it doesn't continue.
Can you talk more about the fires that you're concerned about that are you think are going to merge and what extra dangers that poses?
Well, the fires that merged were all on the Sonoma County side, with some of them encroaching over to the Napa County side. And that whole series of fires over there, that was everything from Partrick to Nuns to Norbaum to Adobe and a few others, have all gone together and are going to be run as one incident over on that side. And then, of course, we have Atlas and Tubbs. And so, we are concerned about all those. We have fire line that is uncontained. And anytime we have uncontained fire line is a concern because it will continue to progress. So anywhere we have uncontained line or where we need to reinforce line that still has fire activity in it, those are our priorities right now. There's other parts of the fire, like I showed in black. That means that it's mop up and patrol status. And we'll continue to see a lot more of that, hopefully, as the days go on.
So Partrick Adobe is now just Nuns?
Yeah, everything is going to be, as the map will show right here, that's basically all together as Nuns. We reported some separate acreage because we have that intelligence, but basically from this point forward, everything over on this side is all considered the Nuns incident now.
How are you going on reinforcements as far as numbers and given the fact that you've had time out on the front lines?
Well,
you have an advantage now that you didn't have maybe a few days ago?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt. We are getting folks off the line and rested to get re-engaged in the incident. I mean, no one, it's like pulling teeth to get, you know, firefighters and law enforcement officers to disengage from what they're doing out there. I mean, they're truly passionate about what they're doing to help the public, but the reinforcements are coming in. We're continuing to, and that's why you're seeing the progress that we're making. We're transitioning from just a couple days ago of defending structures with a minimal perimeter control due to the fact the fire was running in so many directions to actually being able to get in there, focus on areas that we're containing, and continuing then to pull resources to the next priority on the incident. So the reinforcements that have been spoken about are really making a big difference.
How concerned are you about tonight's weather?
We're concerned. I mean, we're going back into red flag for low humidities and increasing winds, but we have a lot more resources now. We will be prepared and do everything we can to keep those fires within the box.
How does your tactic change when fires merge into one?
Well, the one benefit when fires merge into one is that you don't have so much exterior perimeter to put out. Instead of having a bunch of separate fires that need constant line all the way around it, you have one line now that you put around it. So that's the one benefit, and within the organization, as we manage it, it doesn't really change too much other than the fact that there's probably less direct perimeter to put in, but we still got to put all the fire out. What used to be something of a concern right in here, say, if this was the edge of the line, is now deep in the middle of the burn. As long as the structures are secure, that area is far enough inside, we don't need to go in there and put dozer line around the middle of a black area.
Next question.
How many firefighters do you have now versus what you had Monday or Tuesday?
I think we reported this morning for the Atlas fire, and for our section of it, for Incident Management Team 3, we're just short of 1,900 personnel. So those numbers are continuing to climb. I think just a couple days ago, two days ago or 3 days ago, we were barely at 400. So those numbers are growing, and that's a great sign.
I would like to reassure Napa that you've got a great team with you. Not only is the county working hard for you, CAL FIRE's working hard for you, law enforcement officers through mutual aid from around the state are coming for you. We thank the California National Guard for their assistance. And I would like to thank our cities. Every single city, your mayors are here to show you that they're supporting you, they're here from you. Mayor Chris Canning of Calistoga, Mayor Alan Galbraith of St. Helena, Mayor John Dunbar of Yountville, Mayor Jill Teckel of Napa, and Mayor Leon Garcia of American Canyon. We're in this together. We will continue to update you. Our next press conference will be tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Be safe, be vigilant, Napa.
All right, guys, bringing you back to a live look inside our digital newsroom here today on this Friday, Friday the 13th, October 13th, guys. Hope you are having a great morning. We're going to kind of switch it up and go over to the diplomatic reception room in the White House, where President Trump is set to provide some remarks on his Iran strategy that has been slated for today. Around this time, I think it's going to happen in about 10 minutes or so. We're going to see when that all kicks off. But that was an update from Napa County officials. We've been hearing from that same crew really all week about what's going on in Napa and Sonoma counties. But here's a look at our newsroom, guys. Check us out. Glad you're on the stream with us. And we're going to see whatever sources come in so we can bring you just any live breaking news that we have here on the channel. So thanks for joining me on the stream today. We're just getting a notice right now that President Trump is going to be starting soon, and we're going to have a couple different cameras there. So take a quick live look inside, and this should get started very shortly.
We don't have a table. Yeah, they're bringing it. Just goes in. think we're good.
What's up? Yeah, it does.
Peter, that's centered for you? You good?
Is that where you're standing?
Guys, also earlier this morning, President Trump, he's had quite a busy morning. He was over at the Omni Shoreham Hotel in Woodley Park here in Washington, D.C. for the Value Voters Summit. He had some words, or made some remarks there, and we have that video, so I'm going to show you some of that. And then when this live event starts up, which should be shortly, we'll jump back in so we can go to the White House live for these remarks. So lots going on with the president today. Let's play out some of that video, and then we'll come back to the White House when it starts up.
The social experimentation of our nation's military, which left it depleted and demoralized. And what has he done? He has had the courage and the conviction to keep his campaign promises and do just that. My friends, I believe we can save this republic. We have a leader who is committed to keeping his promises. But we have in the Oval Office, I believe, a leader who has courage and has conviction. And it is my honor today to introduce to you the President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Thank you very much, Tony. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, I've been here before. You do know that. Before the big day on November 8th, I was here. I want to thank Mark Meadows and all of the folks that have really made this possible. And Tony, tremendous guy. We have some incredible people that we love and that we're involved with. So we all know that. And I'm being followed by Mr. Bennett. You know that, right? And I've been watching him say nice things about me before I knew him. Those are the ones I like, where they speak well of you before you know them, right? But I really want to thank everybody and Tony for your extraordinary leadership of this organization. And I want to thank also Lawana for your dedication to the faith community and to our nation. Works so hard. It's great to be back here with so many friends at the 2017 Values Voter Summit, and we know what that means. We know what that means. America is a nation of believers, and together we are strengthened and sustained by the power of prayer. True. As we gather for this tremendous event, our hearts remain sad and heavy for the victims of the horrific mass murder last week in Las Vegas. It was an act of pure evil. But in the wake of such horror, we also witnessed the true character of our nation. A mother laid on top of her daughter to shield her from gunfire. A husband died to protect his beloved wife. Strangers rescued strangers. Police officers, and you saw that, all of those incredible police officers, how brave they were, how great they were running into fire. And first responders, they rushed right into danger. Americans defied evil and hatred with courage and love. The men and women who risked their lives to save their fellow citizens gave proof to the words of this scripture. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. All of America is praying for the wounded and the grieving, and we will be with them today, and we will be with them forever. Just want to finish by saying to really, and we understand it was so horrific to watch and so terrible, but to those who lost the ones they love, we know that we cannot erase your pain, but we promise to never, ever leave your side. We are one nation, and we all hurt together, we hope together, and we heal together. We also stand with the millions of people who have suffered from the massive fires which are right now raging in California, and the catastrophic hurricanes along the Gulf Coast in Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands. And I will tell you, I left Texas, and I left Florida, and I left Louisiana, and I went to Puerto Rico, and I met with the president of the Virgin Islands. These are people that are incredible people. They've suffered gravely, and we'll be there. We're going to be there. We have really, it's not even a question of a choice. We don't even want a choice. We're going to be there as Americans, and we love those people and what they've gone through. And they're all healing, and their states and territories are healing, and they're healing rapidly. In the wake of the terrible tragedies of the past several weeks, the American people have responded with goodness and generosity and bravery. You've seen it. The heroism of everyday citizens reminds us that the true strength of our nation is found in the hearts and souls of our people. When America is unified, no force on earth can break us apart. We love our families. We love our neighbors. We love our country. Everyone here today is brought together by the same shared and timeless values. We cherish the sacred dignity of every human life. We believe in strong families and safe communities. We honor the dignity of work. We defend our Constitution. We protect religious liberty. We treasure our freedom. We are proud of our history. We support the rule of law and the incredible men and women of law enforcement. We celebrate our heroes, and we salute every American who wears the uniform. We respect our great American flag. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we stand united behind the customs, beliefs, and traditions that define who we are as a nation and as a people. George Washington said that religion and morality are indispensable to America's happiness, really prosperity, and totally to its success. It is our faith and our values that inspires us to give with charity, to act with courage, and to sacrifice for what we know is right. The American founders invoked our Creator 4 times in the Declaration of Independence, 4 times. How times have changed, but you know what? Now they're changing back again. Just remember that. Benjamin Franklin reminded his colleagues at the Constitutional Convention to begin by bowing their heads in prayer. Religious liberty is enshrined in the very First Amendment of the Bill of Rights, and we all pledge allegiance to very, very beautifully, one nation under God. This is America's heritage, a country that never forgets that we are all, every one of us, made by the same God in heaven. When I came to speak with you last year, I made you a promise. Well, one of the promises I made you was that I'd come back. See? And I don't even need your vote this year, right? That's even nicer. But I pledge that in a Trump administration, our nation's religious heritage would be cherished, protected, and defended like you have never seen before. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. You see it every day. You're reading it. So this morning, I am honored and thrilled to return as the first sitting president to address this incredible gathering of friends. So many friends. So many friends. And I'll ask Tony and all of our people that do such a great job in putting this event together, can I take next year off or not? Or do I have to be back? I don't know. Huh? He's saying they're saying no. Luana's saying no. So that means no. So I'm here to thank you for your support and to share with you how we are delivering on that promise, defending our shared values, and in so doing, how we are renewing the America we love. In the last 10 months, we have followed through on one promise after another. I didn't have a schedule, but if I did have a schedule, I would say we are substantially ahead of schedule. Some of those promises are to support and defend the Constitution. I appointed and confirmed a Supreme Court justice in the mold of the late, great Justice Antonin Scalia. The newest member of the Supreme Court, Justice Neil Gorsuch. To protect the unborn, I have reinstated a policy first put in place by President Ronald Reagan, the Mexico City policy. To protect religious liberty, including protecting groups like this one, I signed a new executive action in a beautiful ceremony at the White House on our National Day of Prayer. Which day we made official. Among many historic steps, the executive order followed through on one of my most important campaign promises to so many of you, to prevent the horrendous Johnson Amendment from interfering with your First Amendment rights. Thank you. We will not allow government workers to censor sermons or target our pastors, our ministers, our rabbis. These are the people we want to hear from, and they're not going to be silenced any longer. Just last week, based on this executive action, the Department of Justice issued a new guidance to all federal agencies to ensure that no religious group is ever targeted under my administration. Won't happen. We have also taken action to protect the conscience rights of groups like the Little Sisters of the Poor. You know what they went through. What they went through. They were going through hell, and then all of a sudden they won. They said, how did that happen? We want to really point out that the Little Sisters of the Poor and other people of faith, they live by a beautiful calling, and we will not let bureaucrats take away that calling or take away their rights. We are stopping cold the attacks on Judeo-Christian values. Thank you. Thank you very much. And something I said so much during the last 2 years, but I'll say it again as we approach the end of the year. You know, we're getting near that beautiful Christmas season that people don't talk about anymore. They don't use the word Christmas because it's not politically correct. You go department stores and they'll say Happy New Year and they'll say other things and it'll be red. They'll have it painted, but they don't say, well, guess what? We're saying Merry Christmas again. And as a Christmas gift to all of our hardworking families, we hope Congress will pass massive tax cuts for the American people. That includes increasing the child tax credit and expanding it to eliminate the marriage penalty. Because we know that the American family is the true bedrock of American life. So true. This is such an exciting event because we are really working very hard, and hopefully Congress will come through. You saw what we did yesterday with respect to health care. It's step by step by step. And that was a very big step yesterday. Another big step was taken in policy toward the rogue regime in Iran. That review is now complete. Today I am announcing our strategy, along with several major steps we are taking to confront the Iranian regime's hostile actions and to ensure that Iran never, and I mean never, acquires a nuclear weapon. Our policy is based on a clear-eyed assessment of the Iranian dictatorship, its sponsorship of terrorism, and its continuing aggression in the Middle East and all around the world. Iran is under the control of a fanatical regime that seized power in 1979 and forced a proud people to submit to its extremist rule. This radical regime has raided the wealth of one of the world's oldest and most vibrant nations and spread death, destruction, and chaos all around the globe. Beginning in 1979, agents of the Iranian regime illegally seized the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and held more than 60 Americans hostage during the 444 days of the crisis. The Iranian-backed terrorist group Hezbollah twice bombed our embassy in Lebanon, once in 1983 and again in 1984. Another Iranian-supported bombing killed 241 Americans, service members they were, in their barracks in Beirut in 1983. In 1996, the regime directed another bombing of American military housing in Saudi Arabia, murdering 19 Americans in cold blood. Iranian proxies provided training to operatives who were later involved in al-Qaeda's bombing of the American embassies in Kenya, Tanzania, and 2 years later killing 224 people and wounding more than 4,000 others. The regime harbored high-level terrorists in the wake of the 9/11 attacks, including Osama bin Laden's son. In Iraq and Afghanistan, groups supported by Iran have killed hundreds of American military personnel. The Iranian dictatorship's aggression
continues to this day. The regime remains the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism and provides assistance to Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, Hezbollah, Hamas, and other terrorist networks. It develops, deploys, and proliferates missiles that threaten American troops and our allies. It harasses American ships and threatens freedom of navigation in the Arabian Gulf and in the Red Sea. It imprisons Americans on false charges, and it launches cyber attacks against our critical infrastructure, financial system, and military. The United States is far from the only target of the Iranian dictatorship's long campaign of bloodshed. The regime violently suppresses its own citizens. It shot unarmed student protesters in the street during the Green Revolution. This regime has fueled sectarian violence in Iraq and vicious civil wars in Yemen and Syria. In Syria, the Iranian regime has supported the atrocities of Bashar al-Assad's regime and condoned Assad's use of chemical weapons against helpless civilians, including many, many children. Given the regime's murderous past and present, we should not take lightly its sinister vision for the future. The regime's two favorite chants are death to America and death to Israel. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the United States and the United Nations Security Council sought over many years to stop Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons with a wide array of strong economic sanctions. But the previous administration lifted these sanctions just before what would have been the total collapse of the Iranian regime through the deeply controversial 2015 nuclear deal with Iran. This deal is known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. As I have said many times, the Iran deal was one of the worst and most one-sided transactions the United States has ever entered into. The same mindset that produced this deal is responsible for years of terrible trade deals that have sacrificed so many millions of jobs in our country to the benefit of other countries. We need negotiators who will much more strongly represent America's interests. The nuclear deal threw Iran's dictatorship a political and economic lifeline, providing urgently needed relief from the intense domestic pressure the sanctions had created. It also gave the regime an immediate financial boost, and over $100 billion its government could use to fund terrorism. The regime also received a massive cash settlement of $1.7 billion from the United States, a large portion of which was physically loaded onto an airplane and flown into Iran. Just imagine the sight of those huge piles of money being hauled off by the Iranians, waiting at the airport for the cash. I wonder where all that money went. Worst of all, the deal allows Iran to continue developing certain elements of its nuclear program, and importantly, in just a few years, as key restrictions disappear, Iran can sprint towards a rapid nuclear weapons breakout. In other words, we got weak inspections in exchange for no more than a purely short-term and temporary delay in Iran's path to nuclear weapons. What is the purpose of a deal that, at best, only delays Iran's nuclear capability for a short period of time? This, as President of the United States is unacceptable. In other countries, they think in terms of 100-year intervals, not just a few years at a time. The saddest part of the deal for the United States is that all of the money was paid up front, which is unheard of, rather than at the end of the deal when they have shown they've played by the rules. But what's done is done, and that's why we are where we are. The Iranian regime has committed multiple violations of the agreement. For example, on 2 separate occasions, they have exceeded the limit of 130 metric tons of heavy water. Until recently, the Iranian regime has also failed to meet our expectations in its operation of advanced centrifuges. The Iranian regime has also intimidated international inspectors into not using the full inspection authorities that the agreement calls for. Iranian officials and military leaders have repeatedly claimed they will not allow inspectors onto military sites, even though the international community suspects some of those sites were part of Iran's clandestine nuclear weapons program. There are also many people who believe that Iran is dealing with North Korea. I am going to instruct our intelligence agencies to do a thorough analysis and report back their findings beyond what they have already reviewed. By its own terms, the Iran deal was supposed to contribute to regional and international peace and security. And yet, while the United States adheres to our commitment under the deal, the Iranian regime continues to fuel conflict, terror, and turmoil throughout the Middle East and beyond. Importantly, Iran is not living up to the spirit of the deal. So today, in recognition of the increasing menace posed by Iran, and after extensive consultations with our allies, I am announcing a new strategy to address the full range of Iran's destructive actions. First, we will work with our allies to counter the regime's destabilizing activity and support for terrorist proxies in the region. Second, we will place additional sanctions on the regime to block their financing of terror. Third, we will address the regime's proliferation of missiles and weapons that threaten its neighbors' global trade and freedom of navigation. And finally, we will deny the regime all paths to a nuclear weapon. Today, I'm also announcing several major steps my administration has taken in pursuit of this strategy. The execution of our strategy begins with the long overdue step of imposing tough sanctions on Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Revolutionary Guard is the Iranian supreme leader's corrupt personal terror force and militia. It has hijacked large portions of Iran's economy and seized massive religious endowments to fund war and terror abroad. This includes arming the Syrian dictator, supplying proxies and partners with missiles and weapons to attack civilians in the region, and even plotting to bomb a popular restaurant right here in Washington, D.C. I am authorizing the Treasury Department to further sanction the entire Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps for its support for terrorism and to apply sanctions to its officials, agents, and affiliates. I urge our allies to join us in taking strong actions to curb Iran's continued dangerous and destabilizing behavior, including thorough sanctions outside the Iran deal that target the regime's ballistic missile program in support for terrorism and all of its destructive activities, of which there are many. Finally, on the grave matter of Iran's nuclear program. Since the signing of the nuclear agreement, the regime's dangerous aggression has only escalated. At the same time, it has received massive sanctions relief while continuing to develop its missiles program. Iran has also entered into lucrative business contracts with other parties to the agreement. When the agreement was finalized in 2015, Congress passed the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act to ensure that Congress's voice would be heard on the deal. Among other conditions, this law requires the president or his designee to certify that the suspension of sanctions under the deal is appropriate and proportionate to measure and other measures taken by Iran to terminate its illicit nuclear program. Based on the factual record I have put forward, I am announcing today that we cannot and will not make this certification. We will not continue down a path whose predictable conclusion is more violence, more terror, and the very real threat of Iran's nuclear breakout. That is why I am directing my administration to work closely with Congress and our allies to address the deal's many serious flaws so that the Iranian regime can never threaten the world with nuclear weapons. These include the deal's sunset clauses that in just a few years will eliminate key restrictions on Iran's nuclear program. The flaws in the deal also include insufficient enforcement and near total silence on Iran's missile programs. Congress has already begun the work to address these problems. Key House and Senate leaders are drafting legislation that would amend the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act to strengthen enforcement, prevent Iran from developing an internet, this is so totally important, an intercontinental ballistic missile, and make all restrictions on Iran's nuclear activity permanent under U.S. law. So important. I support these initiatives. However, in the event we are not able to reach a solution working with Congress and our allies, then the agreement will be terminated. It is under continuous review, and our participation can be canceled by me as president at any time. As we have seen in North Korea, the longer we ignore a threat, the worse that threat becomes. It is why we are determined that the world's leading sponsor of terrorism will never obtain nuclear weapons. In this effort, we stand in total solidarity with the Iranian regime's longest suffering victims, its own people. The citizens of Iran have paid a heavy price for the violence and extremism of their leaders. The Iranian people long to, and they just are longing to reclaim their country's proud history, its culture, its civilization, its cooperation with its neighbors. We hope that these new measures directed at the Iranian dictatorship will compel the government to reevaluate its pursuit of terror at the expense of its people. We hope that our actions today will help bring about a future of peace, stability, and prosperity in the Middle East, a future where sovereign nations respect each other and their own citizens. We pray for a future where young children, American and Iranian, Muslim, Christian, and Jewish, can grow up in a world free from violence, hatred, and terror. And until that blessed day comes, we will do what we must to keep America safe. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, stations, we're wrapping up the level 2 here.
All right, we're going to come back into the newsroom here, guys, today. Thanks so much for joining us on the stream. Hey, Graham, good to see you. And you asked the question about the D.C. restaurant. Really good question. When he said that, that actually perked my ears up as well, and I wasn't quite sure which one he was referring to. So I looked up a couple articles, and there's a couple from earlier last year, or rather late in 2016, and then I think there was something in 2017, but I'm still kind of looking it up, so I'm not quite sure which one he was referring to that police were investigating in that speech. But we're going to go back to his remarks from earlier this morning in just a second. Take a little break for a second, and I'm going to give you a bump shot of the White House for now. This is a live look at what it looks like today on this gloomy, dreary day, the day after the Nats lose Game 5 in the NLDS, guys. It was a super sad, pretty heartbreaking night for our DC sports fans. If any of you were out on the wharf or over at the game, let us know in the comments in the live chat, and we can chat about it. But I'm going to give you a quick bump shot, and we'll be right back.
It'll be red. They'll have it painted, but they don't say, well, guess what? We're saying Merry Christmas again. And as a Christmas gift to all of our hardworking families, we hope Congress will pass massive tax cuts for the American people. That includes increasing the child tax credit and expanding it to eliminate the marriage penalty. Because we know that the American family is the true bedrock of American life. So true. This is such an exciting event because we are really working very hard, and hopefully Congress will come through. You saw what we did yesterday with respect to health care. It's step by step by step. And that was a very big step yesterday. Another big step was taken the day before yesterday. And one by one, it's going to come down, and we're going to have great health care in our country. We are going to have great health care in our country. We're taking a little different route than we had hoped because getting Congress, they forgot what their pledges were. So we're going a little different route, but you know what? In the end, it's going to be just as effective, and maybe it'll even be better. For too long, politicians have tried to centralize the authority among the hands of a small few in our nation's capital. Bureaucrats think they can run your lives, overrule your values, meddle in your faith, and tell you how to live, what to say, and how to pray. But we know that parents, not bureaucrats, know best how to raise their children and create a thriving society. We know that faith and prayer, not federal regulation, and by the way, we are cutting regulations at a clip that nobody has ever seen before. Nobody. In 9 months, we have cut more regulation than any president has cut during their term in office. So we are doing a job. And that is one of the major reasons, in addition to the enthusiasm for manufacturing and business and jobs, and the jobs are coming back. That's one of the major reasons, regulation, what we've done, that the stock market has just hit an all-time historic high. That just on the public markets, we've made since Election Day $5.2 trillion in value. Think of that, $5.2 trillion. And as you've seen, the level of enthusiasm is the highest it's ever been, and we have a 17-year low in unemployment. So we're doing really some work. We know that it's the family and the church, not government officials, that know best how to create strong and loving communities. And above all else, we know this. In America, we don't worship government, we worship God. Inspired by that conviction, we are returning moral clarity to our view of the world and the many grave challenges we face. This afternoon, in a little while, I'll be giving a speech on Iran, a terrorist nation like few others, and I think you're going to find it very interesting. Yesterday, things happened with Pakistan. And I have openly said Pakistan took tremendous advantage of our country for many years. But we're starting to have a real relationship with Pakistan, and they're starting to respect us as a nation again, and so are other nations. They are starting to respect the United States of America again, and I appreciate that. And I want to thank the leaders of Pakistan for what they've been doing. In this administration, we will call evil by its name. We stand with our friends and allies. We forge new partnerships in pursuit of peace. And we take decisive action against those who would threaten our people with harm. And we will be decisive because we know that the first duty of government is to serve its citizens. We are defending our borders, protecting our workers, and enforcing our laws. You see it every single day like you haven't seen it in many, many years, if you've seen it at all. In protecting America's interests abroad, we will always support our cherished friend and partner, the State of Israel. We will confront the dangers that imperil our nation, our allies, and the world, including the threat of radical Islamic terrorism. We have made great strides against ISIS, tremendous strides. I don't know if you've seen what's going on, but tremendous strides against ISIS. They never got hit like this before. Stand up. Stand up. Let me. He's a rough guy. I can see it. But they've been just ruthless, and they've ruthlessly slaughtered innocent Christians, along with the vicious killing of innocent Muslims and other religious minorities. And we've made their lives very, very difficult. Believe me. We've done more against ISIS in 9 months than the previous administration's done during its whole administration. By far, by far. And ISIS is now being dealt one defeat after another. We're confronting rogue regimes from Iran to North Korea, and we are challenging the communist dictatorship of Cuba and the socialist oppression of Venezuela, and we will not lift the sanctions on these repressive regimes until they restore political and religious freedom for their people. All of these bad actors share a common enemy, the one force they cannot stop, the force deep within our souls, and that is the power of hope. That is why, in addition to our great military might, our enemies truly fear the United States, because our people never lose faith, never give in, and always hope for a better tomorrow. Last week, Melania and I were reminded of this in a powerful way when we traveled to Las Vegas. We visited a hospital where some of the survivors were recovering from absolutely horrific wounds. We met a young man named Brady Cook. He's 22 and a brand new police officer. That night was Brady's second day in field training, his second day as a policeman. Can you believe that? But when the shooting began, he did not hesitate. He acted with incredible courage, rushing into the hail of bullets, and he was badly shot in his shoulder. This is what Brady said. I didn't expect it, but it's what I signed up for. When stuff goes down, I want to be there to face evil and to protect the good, innocent people that need it. And here's a young guy, great guy, and second day, he said, Brady, don't worry about it. It's going to be easier from here. Brady's a hero, and he can't wait to get back on the job. Several weeks before, when Hurricane Harvey hit Houston, a local furniture store owner who's known in Texas as Mattress Mac decided he had to help. When the rain began to flood the streets of the city, he sent out his furniture trucks to rescue the stranded. He brought them back to his stores and gave them food and a clean, dry place to stay, even if it meant ruining countless dollars worth of furniture. As Mattress Mac put it, my faith defines me. It's who I am. We can afford the cost. We can't afford what we can't. And he said this very strongly. What we can't afford is to cause people to lose hope. In Brady and Mac, we see the strength of the American spirit. This spirit of courage and compassion is all around us every day. It is the heartbeat of our great nation. And despite certain coverage, that beat is stronger than it's ever been before. You see right through it. That beat is stronger than it's ever been. We see this spirit in the men and women who selflessly enlist in our armed forces and really who go out and risk their lives for God and for country. And we see it in the mothers and the fathers who get up at the crack of dawn. They work 2 jobs and sometimes 3 jobs. They sacrifice every day for the furniture and future of their children. They have to go out. They go out, they work. The future of their children is everything to them. They put it before everything. And they make sure that the future of their children has God involved in it. So important to them. We see it in the church communities that come together to care for one another, to pray for each other, and to stand strong with each other in times of need. The people who grace our lives and fill our homes and build our communities are the true strength of our nation and the greatest hope for a better tomorrow. As long as we have pride in our country, confidence in our future, and faith in our God, then America will prevail. We will defeat every evil, overcome every threat, and meet every single challenge. We will defend our faith and protect our traditions. We will find the best in each other and in ourselves. We will pass on the blessings of liberty and the glories of God to our children. Our values will endure. Our nation will thrive. Our citizens will flourish. And our freedom will triumph. Thank you to the Value Voters Summit. Such an incredible group of people you are. Thank you to all of the faithful here today. And thank you to the people of faith all across our nation and all over the world. May God bless you. May God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Any questions? Having heard none any, let's move on with our program. Hey, I have to say that today was supposed to be a travel day for the president, and he did not think, well, we didn't think he was going to be able to make it. What he chose to do was reschedule his other appointment so he could be here with you. I turned to Bill Bennett during the speech. I said, boy, I'm sure glad I don't have to follow him. He said, well, I do. Hey, folks, simply put, our next speaker is one of America's most important, influential, and respected voices on cultural, political, and educational issues. He's a man of strong, reasoned convictions who speaks honestly, eloquently, and candidly about some of the most important issues of our time. He's written or co-authored more than 25 books, including 2 New York Times bestsellers. His 3-volume set of the history of the United States entitled America, The Last Best Hope, has been widely praised and adopted for use in schools around the country. Through his high-level government positions, his writings, his commentary and speeches, and thousands of media appearances over the years, he has an extraordinary influence on America's political and social landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome to the stage Dr. Bill Bennett.
All right, guys, so this video, that clip goes kind of on for a little while longer. That was the Value Voters Summit at the Omni Shoreham Hotel in Woodley Park here in D.C., but it ends shortly after that. So I just wanted to bring you the clip of President Trump so you can kind of see what he was talking about this morning there. This is a live look. You're looking inside the digital newsroom here at Fox 5 D.C. It's Friday. Friday the 13th, that is, in October, which is kind of crazy. I don't think I've experienced one of those in a long time, but it's a pretty dreary day, guys, today. There's not a ton of stuff going on. Pretty quiet inside the newsroom, and it's literally, quite literally, pretty dreary as well. Take a look at a live look at the Capitol Dome. There it is, really gray, white skies. It was pretty chilly down at the wharf last night, too. I got to go down. I don't know if any of you guys got to go down to see the grand opening, the opening ceremonies of the wharf. There were fireworks at 6:30. It was still pretty light out, but it was gray. And there were the Bacon Brothers Band were performing on that pier. And then, of course, tons of people were lining up for the Anthem, the brand new venue down there, for the Foo Fighters concert, which was sold out. So I didn't get to go to that, but I kind of puttered around the wharf and then scurried over to the Nats Park for the game, which was also a super sad night. Very disappointing towards the end of that game, but a really great game. And we all had to stay to the end because it was slammed. If any of you on the stream went to any of those things, let us know. It's been a really exciting week here in DC for a lot of those openings. We brought you guys live down at the wharf on one of our morning shows this week, and then have sort of been tracking what's opening there and all that stuff. And there's just so much that's sort of still ongoing. It's sort of still a work in progress. Things are still opening up, or rather are still closed because they're not ready to open yet. But we'll have more coverage of that as things move forward with the wharf. So yeah, guys, unless I have other breaking video come in, we're just gonna kind of hang out here in the newsroom. I wish I had more to show you. This is what it looks like today. Pretty relaxed day here at Fox 5 DC on our live stream. So if you have a chance, you can subscribe to our channel. Maybe if you're already on, you are a subscriber, but you can press the button, the red bold writing that says subscribe to be part of our channel. And we're up every kind of midday afternoon, so you can kind of see what's coming in. I'm a little under the weather, you can tell today, just from the long night and the long week that it's been here in DC. But we're gonna have a lot of awesome action-packed stuff for you next week as well, as we continue to follow all the stuff, politics, entertainment, sports, all of it here on Fox 5 Live. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. And if you have any thoughts or comments, you can get at us here. Remember, we're at Fox 5 DC on all our platforms, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, of course. You can see all our updated web stories on our website, fox5dc.com also. Hopefully you become a regular on our YouTube stream, so just flag our channel and open us up whenever you feel that you want to watch during the week, because we're going to be back Monday for more. So for now, guys, we're going to just kind of throw it to a live look at the White House today, and if we have anything else breaking, we'll come in up to about 2 o'clock. But remember, all the coverage continues on our digital platforms, on our website, on our Facebook page, and on our broadcasts, on tonight's broadcast tonight, Friday Night News, 5, 6, 6:30. So we'll see you there. All right, thanks guys for joining in. If we have anything else, we'll break in with it. If not, have an awesome, awesome weekend, and we'll see you Monday at 11:30. All right, guys.
economic growth, the 45th President of the United States of America, I bring greetings from President Donald Trump. Let me just say, whatever differences some in the room may have had in the campaign of 2016, the President sent me here today to say thank you for your strong support of our agenda this year in 2017. An agenda of less regulation, less taxes, and more opportunity and prosperity and freedom for every American. You know, President Trump is keeping his promises to the American people, and we are grateful for the support that all of you in this room are showing to those efforts. But let me also thank every business leader in this room for what you do every day to renew the promise of America. For nearly 15 years, this group has brought together many of America's greatest job creators and philanthropists in pursuit of a noble purpose. You've worked tirelessly to, in your words, break down barriers to opportunity, to advance a free and open society. You've devoted your time, your talent, and your treasure to help your fellow Americans improve their lives, especially the least fortunate. You've invested in communities, catalyzed change, and transformed lives. You've expanded opportunities in education and defended academic freedom. You've mobilized a grassroots movement of millions of Americans to advance a pro-freedom agenda. And you've helped impact policies from state houses across America and now in the halls of government in Washington, D.C. In short, your generosity has made a difference all across America. So give yourselves a round of applause, because we're grateful for all you've done. I'm here to tell you today that President Trump shares your commitment to that brighter future for every American. Since day one of our administration, the President has taken decisive action to restore freedom, opportunity, and prosperity for the American people. President Trump has been upholding the principles of limited government first and foremost by appointing strict constructionists to our federal courts at every level, men and women who will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, like our newest member of the Supreme Court of the United States, Justice Neil Gorsuch. And President Trump's been busy rolling back the heavy hand of government. This president is actually, as I stand before you today, this president has signed more laws cutting through federal red tape than any president in American history. He's directed every federal agency to find 2 regulations to get rid of before issuing any new rules and mandates on working families and job creators. And our administration has already canceled and delayed nearly 1,000 planned regulations and kept new regulatory costs to 0. And next year, President Trump, as he did so earlier last week, has charged our cabinet with achieving a net reduction in federal regulations next year for the first time in American history. Under President Donald Trump, the era of overregulation is over. And our administration's been busy unleashing American energy like never before. In one of his very first acts in office, President Trump approved the Keystone and Dakota pipelines. Just this week, we confirmed our efforts to repeal the so-called Clean Power Plan, and President Trump put America first when he announced that the United States would withdraw from the job-killing Paris Climate Accord. And under President Donald Trump, the war on coal is over. The truth is that President Trump has kept his promise to get the American economy moving again, and the results are undeniable. Optimism is sweeping America for consumers and job creators alike. Businesses large and small, like those represented here today, have created more than 1 million new jobs since January 20th. Unemployment's at a 17-year low. The stock market is smashing records left and right, creating nearly $5 trillion in new wealth in less than a year. And after 8 years of less than 2% economic growth, the American economy is now growing at more than 3%. Confidence is back. Growth is back. Under President Donald Trump, in a word, America is back, and we're just getting started. And the president's achieving real results on the international stage as well. While some critics engage in empty rhetoric, baseless attacks, thanks to the president's leadership, ISIS is on the run. North Korea is isolated as never before, and our NATO allies are doing more to pay their fair share for our common defense. Just this week, Pakistan took an important step to answer the president's call to do more in the fight of terrorism as they helped secure the release of an American family that had been held hostage for more than 5 years. And earlier today, in recognition of the increasing threat posed by the Iranian dictatorship, President Trump announced a new strategy to address the full range of Iran's destructive actions. Men and women, that's what American leadership on the world stage looks like. And no amount of criticism back home can diminish those results. America stands once again under President Donald Trump without apology as the leader of the free world. But as the president often says in the Oval Office, that's just what we call a good start at this White House. The truth is, we have a lot more work to do. And before this session of Congress ends in 2018, I promise you, we're going to work with every one of you in this room, and we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. As the president said, we were disappointed that every single Democrat and a few Republicans weren't ready to repeal and replace Obamacare at the end of last month. But while Congress wasn't ready to act, President Trump is fully committed to give the American people the relief they need. And as he said today, we'll do it, in his words, step by step by step. Yesterday, our president signed an executive order that will expand access to association health plans, will give employed Americans more access to low-priced, high-quality health care. And today, our administration will bring an end to Obamacare's unauthorized bailout of health insurance companies by ending the cost-sharing subsidies that were never appropriated by Congress to begin with. And I'll make you a promise. President Trump and I will not rest, we will not relent until we end the Obamacare nightmare once and for all. And we give the American people a healthcare system based on personal responsibility, free market competition, and state-based reform. That's the American way to give the American people access to world-class health care in the 21st century. But you know, I mostly came here today to assure you that before this year is out, with your help in this room, we're going to cut taxes across the board for working families, small businesses, and family farms. President Trump talked about our tax cut plan just a few days ago in Pennsylvania. As he said, we're calling our plan the American model. It's pro-growth, pro-jobs, pro-worker, and pro-family. As I've traveled across America this year, I've heard firsthand from working families and job creators, large and small, about the problems they face with our country's tax code. You know, there's an old joke that says the tax code is 10 times the length of the Bible with none of the good news. No truer words. I mean, the truth is, today, taxpayers spend about 6 billion hours every year dealing with their taxes. About 94% of Americans and more than 90% of small businesses have to pay somebody to figure out what they owe the government. All told, complying with our tax code costs our economy $262 billion every single year, or more than $800 for every man, woman, and child in America. And that's just not right. But it's not just working families. Our tax code also stifles American job creators. China, Japan, Germany, Canada, Mexico, virtually every other major developed country has a lower business tax rate than the United States. And we're one of the only countries in the world that taxes every dollar our companies earn overseas. The truth is that our high taxes and complicated code make it harder for companies to hire, raise wages, invest in their employees' success. Our code kills jobs and causes American companies to close factories here and build them overseas. And ultimately, our broken tax code weakens America itself, sapping our spirit of entrepreneurship, culture of innovation, and even our belief in a brighter, more prosperous future for our kids and our grandkids. But as I've said to working families and job creators all across America, I'll say to you today, those days are over. Help is on the way. We're going to put more money in working Americans' pockets. We're going to put job creators back on a path to success, and President Donald Trump is going to sign a historic tax cut that will once again put America first. As the president said this week, our plan is based on 4 principles that every American should be able to get behind. First and foremost, we're going to give working families a historic tax cut. As the President said this week, our tax cut plan will give the typical American household an extra $4,000 a year. We're going to make sure that working families pay no federal taxes on their first $24,000 in income by doubling the standard exemption for families. We're going to end the alternative minimum tax, and President Donald Trump is going to end death taxes once and for all. Death will no longer be a taxable event in America. Our second principle is to make the tax code simple again. We're going to simplify the tax code from 7 brackets down to 3. We'll make sure that more than 90% of Americans can actually file their taxes by themselves on a single sheet of paper. And as the President said this week, we're going to end the special deals for special interests. We're going to eliminate the handouts, the carve-outs, the loopholes that benefit the wealthy and the well-connected. And we're going to unrig the economy so it works for every American, and not just for those who can afford to hire an army of lobbyists and lawyers. Our third principle, this businessman turned president, is going to make American business competitive again. We're going to cut one of the highest business tax rates in the world from 35% to 20%, and not a penny more. We're going to make sure that small businesses also get the same relief as big corporations by cutting the pass-through rate to 25%, which will be the lowest tax rate on small businesses in America since 1931. And finally, we're going to cut taxes on the trillions of dollars that American companies have locked overseas, so the companies can invest those dollars in American workers, American jobs, and America's future. The truth is, cutting taxes is the single most important policy of the future of America. You know, it's a time-honored truth. When we cut taxes, we launch a new era of soaring incomes, more jobs, and a thriving middle class. And the bigger the cut, the bigger the growth. John F. Kennedy proved it, Ronald Reagan proved it, and President Donald Trump will prove it again. In fact, President Trump firmly believes that our tax cut plan can create sustained economic growth of more than 3%, or even higher. Think about what that might mean. With just a 3% growth rate over the next 10 years, we'll create more than 12 million new jobs and generate nearly $10 trillion in new economic activity. More importantly, the average income for Americans will rise by nearly $7,000. And really, that's what this is all about. A tax cut will mean more jobs. A tax cut will mean higher wages. And a tax cut will mean an economy where anything is possible, where anyone can improve their lives and achieve the American dream. As President Trump has said, in his words, this is the right tax cut, and this is the right time. But we need all your help to get it passed. I want to thank this network for everything you've already done to support this plan. Through Freedom Partners, Americans for Prosperity, the rest of this network, you've already organized more than 70 grassroots events in key states around the country. As we speak, I'm told that you're on the airwaves across this country, urging lawmakers and business leaders to get behind the President's tax cut plan. And on behalf of President Trump and every American who longs for more jobs and more money in their pockets, we're grateful. We're grateful for all of your support. But I'm here today on behalf of President Trump to encourage you to do even more. To get this tax cut across the line, to give the American people the tax relief that they need, we need every ounce of your energy and enthusiasm, because this is the moment, now is the time. We need you to reach out. Use your voice, use the stature that you enjoy in your communities, in your state, and all across this country to share the opportunity that we have with this tax relief legislation. You talk to your employees, talk to your suppliers, your fellow business leaders to get them on board. And of course, we need you to talk to your elected officials about just how important this moment is in the life of this nation. Tell everyone you can that America needs this tax cut, and America needs it now. I truly believe the future of this Congress depends on them working with our president to pass the tax cut this year. And honestly, our entire agenda depends on this Congress stepping forward and delivering on their promise to the American people. But with your support, with the help of the Congress, including leaders who you've heard from at this conference this week, and with the leadership of President Donald Trump, I'm confident we're going to pass the largest tax cut in American history, and we're going to pass it this year. As you all know, tax cuts are the key to making the strongest economy in the world even stronger. But as I close, let me just encourage all of you to never lose sight of what tax cuts will also mean for our fellow citizens, our communities, and the future of the American spirit itself. You know, I don't have to tell any of you, it's been a challenging few months for people across our country. The American people have watched with heartbreak as hurricanes have battered the good people of Texas, of Florida, of Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. As we stand here today, wildfires are raging across Northern California, destroying property and claiming lives. The President and I have traveled to visit our fellow Americans in their hour of need. Everywhere we go, we tell them that we're with them today. We'll be with them tomorrow, and we'll be with them every day as they go forward to restore and recover and rebuild. And all of our country will be there too. Americans are the most generous and charitable people on earth, and there are sterling examples of that charitable spirit gathered in this room today. The truth is, as Americans, we look out for each other in good times and in bad. When a neighbor or a friend falls on hard times, we're there to help them get back on their feet. As the President often says, here in America, when one of us hurts, we all hurt. When one of us is in need, we all feel that need, and we all come alongside to help. The truth is, in addition to generosity, in addition to keeping all the public promises that we've made to people in difficult times, you all in this room know that the surest long-term path to the greatest recovery for all the areas of our country affected by these hard times is a growing economy. That's why President Trump and I are going to keep fighting every single day to unleash a new era of growth, of jobs, of opportunity, and prosperity, so we can meet our obligations today and meet our aspirations tomorrow. And so that when we as a nation look back at these challenging times, the storms, the fires, or whatever else we must face, that we will remember not what we lost in the midst of the great crisis, but we will remember what we built in its wake together. And this I know we'll do, because I have confidence and I have faith. I have faith in the boundless capacity of the American people, faith in all of you and the entrepreneurial genius of America to build that unimaginable future for this generation and the next. Faith in the leaders who represent our country at every level. And I have that other kind of faith. And I know that with your support, with the leadership of our president, strong leadership in the Congress and at every level, and with God's help, we will make America prosperous again. We will get America growing again. And to borrow a phrase, we will make America great again. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you today. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Yeah, guys, so I was just alerted that we are going to be getting the press conference on the Las Vegas update from the shooting coming up next. So we're going to let this kind of roll out and then jump over to Las Vegas, Nevada, where that is all happening, so that you can get that in, because we haven't seen an update on the shooting in quite some time, and I'm just seeing that notification now, so we are getting it in live. I'm going to bring you that picture in just a second. It has not started yet. Once again, it's going to be an update from officials in Las Vegas, from Las Vegas, Nevada, on the shooting, and I see the podium shot right now, so has not started, but we'll go into there shortly and just bring you that at the top of the hour here, and then bring down the show for the day. Thanks so much, guys, for chatting with me and alerting me about some of this stuff. We're going to jump over to that feed in just a second. All right.
Thanks, sir. Where's my guy, Carlos? Okay. We good? All right, well, welcome everybody. I'm obviously Joe Lombardo, Sheriff, Clark County, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. This press conference will probably be a little bit different than you experienced earlier. It's going to be more informational versus Q&A. So my intent today is to provide some clarification on some outstanding issues out there in the public forum on reference timeline, fuel tanks, a couple other items. And then I'll provide the opportunity for SAC Rouse of the FBI to address the audience, and then we'll have a closing of the conference, okay? And a couple of these items I will read from the narrative because I don't want my comments to be construed or changed. So I wanted to ensure the accuracy of that. But most of this conference will be done strictly through my narrative provided to you. Okay? Okay, first and foremost, I want to give you an update on the injuries. This has been a big deal on my mind, as it has been the public, and I think it's important for you to be given an accurate picture of what is occurring associated with the injuries of the 1 October event. So as of 8 o'clock this morning, I was updated with the most current numbers, and let me back up just a minute. You know, in the early throes of this tragedy, I had advised each and every one of you that items of information were going to change. The dynamics of this investigation is far-reaching, it's wide, it's huge, and you can't expect exact answers in the early throes. My intent in the early throes were to give you the information to provide that calmness in the community to ensure that we didn't have a second player or a third player out hiding in the community intending to cause us harm. So there was no integrity question associated with that, as I've experienced through the cyberspace, questioning my integrity. I provided you the information as I knew it, and everybody in here knew it was going to change. So we will get through that. I'm not giving you 100% satisfaction associated with what I'm going to give you today, because I think some of that's going to change. And we will not know that until we're completed with this investigation. So back to where we were. I think it's important for the community of Clark County to realize we use 17 separate medical facilities to accommodate the injuries associated with this event. And that speaks volumes for the medical community here in Las Vegas, in Clark County. And it seems to be lost in the narrative associated with this, that it was strictly a public safety, fire, and police event. No, it was including the medical community. And I think it's important for me to give them their due respect. So 17 separate medical facilities. Today's numbers, 546 reported injuries.
501 of those have been discharged. In other words, they responded to a medical facility, they were treated for their wounds, and subsequently left to seek a healing process wherever they chose to do so. 58 is still the number of individuals that have died. Now, this is the important piece. 45 individuals are still hospitalized. Some of those are in critical condition. So 58 may raise. By the grace of God, it doesn't. And we shall continue to move forward. The medical profession will provide all the medical care necessary, but sometimes it's people meet their demise outside of our control. So I'm hoping that number does not raise, but today's number is 58. The fuel tanks. I'm going to read this narrative so my words do not get changed, but I want to provide you some information in reference to the fuel tanks. It is believed the fuel tanks were fired upon with intent. McCarran's leaders have safety protocols in place which they re-examine following any safety-related incident. The leaders have already contacted experts in fuel storage out of the abundance of caution. I am more than confident that they will immediately implement any changes or security augmentations if they are so advised. I have been advised there is a very low probability that aviation fuel could be ignited by gunfire, and the tanks are outfitted for continual release of vapors. So that is the situation of the fuel tanks. Any future information that needs to be provided, reference that, will be provided by the Public Information Office out of McCarran Airport. The dates of the 25th versus the 28th. This was not breaking news, no matter who believed it to be so in this form. We were aware of the discrepancy of the 28th versus the 25th in the early parts of this investigation. What we weren't aware of is why the date of the 28th was utilized in the early portion of this, as I was provided this information as part of the person registered in the suspect's room. We have come to learn the suspect did occupy the room on the 25th, and the situation on how the room was compensated or paid for had changed, and the name as part of the registration had changed on the 28th to include Mary Lou Danley. So that was the confusion associated with that. No matter what the perception is, whether we were being non-transparent or we were attempting to be subversive, is false. I was acting on the information at the time I was provided it. The autopsy. Yes, there has been an autopsy performed on Mr. Paddock, or the suspect. In the early evaluation, there was no abnormalities observed visually. As a matter of practice in the forensic science, his brain has been shipped to an appropriate evaluation facility in order to take a microscopic evaluation of the brain. So the initial report that there was no abnormalities was a visual inspection of his brain. So it's yet to be known whether there is any abnormalities to be presented at a later date. Now the timeline. Unfortunately, a great deal of my investigators' time has been preoccupied on this timeline. In the public space, the word incompetence has been brought forward, and I am absolutely offended with that characterization. This is a very dynamic event, very big event. Thousands of people involved, humans involved in documentation, and every venue of information involved in this information in this investigation. So, the information was obtained via security logs. Officer Campos himself, body-worn cameras, hotel cameras, lock interrogation, my dispatch, LVMPD dispatch, hotel and private cameras, and interviews. So imagine bringing it all together to ensure that we are drawing an accurate picture. So I'll provide you a little more information on that. I still stand by the time of 21:59, 9:59. It's important that you continue to listen to me. 9:59 is important. It wasn't inaccurate when I provided it to you. The circumstances associated with it is inaccurate. Okay? I am very well aware of the MGM statement provided yesterday. I agree with their statement. I'm not in conflict with their statement. But here's what I will tell you. We were provided the time of 21:59 as a human entry into a security log. Through investigation, we have determined that Mr. Campos had encountered the barricaded door adjacent to the suspect's door at approximately 21:59. In his attempt to gain entry to the 32nd floor, he required him to ascend to another level and eventually make access to the 32nd floor. He went to the doorway that he was dispatched to originally to address the open doorway. He mitigated that situation and subsequently received fire from the suspect. When you culminate that timeline associated from the initial 21:59 to the 22:05 timeline that we're still stand by as the initial volley of fire, Mr. Campos received his wounds in close proximity to 22:05. He attempted to relay that information, his radio, and it was confirmed because he also relayed that information via his cell phone. So the timeline associated to both of those sources have been verified. 22:05, the number that was provided earlier, referenced the majority of fire upon our community. We still stand by that time, and that was done by the combination of different sources that I listed for you earlier. 22:17, 12 minutes. That is when our officers first arrived on the 32nd floor. 12 minutes. You are very well aware the suspect fired at approximately 10 minutes. Upon our arrival on the 32nd floor, the firing had ceased. We did not believe we had continually had an active shooter. At that point, we conducted evacuations of the rooms adjacent to the suspect's room, and you know the rest. So there is no conspiracy between the FBI, between LVMPD, and the MGM. Nobody is attempting to hide anything. Reference this investigation. The dynamics and the size of this investigation requires us to go through voluminous amounts of information in order to draw an accurate picture. My intent, like I stated earlier, is to give you information as I know it, unverified, to calm the public, not to establish a legal case. Everybody understand that? No question, sir. Now we're going to get into future of the investigation. I don't want to put a percentage of responsibility associated with this investigation because it would not make sense, but I'm here to tell you we are standing hand in hand with the FBI in the continuance of this investigation, in the beginning throes of it and in the continuance of it. Our portion at LVMPD has become contracted. My concern was the initial safety of the community, whether we had any other bad actors out there that we had to address, and I feel confident there are no other individuals intending to cause harm to our community associated with the 1 October event. Now it's become protracted, and that's where the FBI has their expertise. We are establishing the timeline of the suspect's life, his motivation, and everybody else associated with him. This will continue to be a joint operation. With that being said, I want to give the opportunity for Aaron Rouse to provide some statements.
Thank you, Sheriff. I am Aaron Rouse. I'm the Special Agent in charge for the FBI in Las Vegas. In support of our partner, from the beginning, we have established a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week command post with agents, analysts, task force officers, and many support personnel. We have deployed over 200 employees from across the FBI to Las Vegas, including many with specialized positions. Globally, we have hundreds of agents covering every facet of this investigation. Nothing will be overlooked. We have made significant progress. To date, we have found no signs of ideology or affiliation to any groups. Hundreds of interviews have been conducted so far. Close to 2,000 leads have been covered so far. Extensive review of digital media on a multitude of devices is ongoing. Over 1,000 pieces of evidence have been collected and are being reviewed by the FBI laboratory. Hours and hours of video footage from hotels continues to be reviewed. FBI victim specialists from across the country are here assisting victims and families of the victims. More than 1,800 victim questionnaires have been completed, and the return of personal property continues. We continue to ask you, if you have factual information in furtherance of this investigation, please call us. If you know something, say something. The number is 1-800-CALL-FBI. The FBI, nor our partner, we don't rush to conclusions. We ask for your patience and will not comment on specifics of this investigation while it is in process. This is in keeping with the long-standing FBI tradition. As I said from the beginning, this is our city. It is your city. Las Vegas is a resilient city, a microcosm of a resilient nation. While we grieve as a community, we will use that energy to learn as much as we can about this horrible crime so that we may prevent another one from happening. I thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. So before we close out today, I want to provide you another written narrative. I want to read verbatim in support. In other words, bring a better light to what's occurred and the carnage that is associated with our community. There's some bright spots, and I don't want anybody to take offense when I've completed my comments today. There's 1,000 heroes out there, but I'm going to bring it home to my department, and I think it's important for you to hear it. So, the first narrative: in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, Sergeant Garrett Everett arrived at Reno and Haven and saw the need for medical triage area. For hours, Sergeant Everett and other LVMPD officers, along with the off-duty nurses, paramedics, and firefighters, triaged at least 50 gunshot victims. They ran out of tourniquets and began using anything they could find to stop the bleeding, to include their own hobble devices they used during the normal course of their duties. These officers calmly took care of the wounded and the dying as they waited for medical transport, at times placing the critical victims on the backs of trucks so they could get them to the hospital quickly. Not all the victims made it out as the night wore on. Those same officers were assigned to guard the deceased victims not allowing any of them to be left alone. So the undersheriff and myself, Kevin McMahill, took it upon ourselves to go out and visit some of my officers yesterday to discuss their mental state, to thank them, and check on their overall condition. These particular officers sustained some substantial wounds, and some of them you have heard in the public forum already, and some you haven't. But there's a couple key individuals I want you to write about. And one of them is Brady Cook. Brady sustained 4 separate gunshot wounds. And when I say separate, that's entries and exits. It's not actually 4 separate bullets. And an important piece on Brady is the suspect was firing upon the crowd. As our officers started to arrive via vehicles, which Brady was occupying one, it is readily apparent to me that he adjusted his fire and directed it toward the police vehicles. So the response of those individuals, I believe, saved lives. No matter what his personal vendetta is against the police or not, maybe he was preventing the wolf from getting to his door sooner than later, but he chose to fire upon the police vehicles. Brady sustained a substantial wound to his shoulder, through his bicep, into his chest, and out his back. And the reason why I bring this one up, he asked me if he could go back to work today. Samuel Whitwer. Excuse me for my emotion. Samuel was laying on his couch with a very intensive wound to his leg. During the melee and his attempt to evacuate victims, he sustained a broken leg, but he remained on scene and provided security for the medical personnel. So at this point, I want to thank the community. I want to thank you for letting me be your sheriff and Vegas strong. Thank you.
Sheriff, there's a matter of public. No questions.
So, guys, a very emotional press conference there from Clark County officials and police. You saw earlier on in that he said, we're just going to bring you the facts and kind of bring you more information pertaining to that. And there they are, the journalists kind of remaining in the room trying to ask some questions, but an emotional moment for the chief of police there, talking about some of his officers and what they went through. But he started the press conference with more detail as to what exactly happened as police rushed into the Mandalay Bay Hotel when the shooting actually the gunfire ended, and he seemed pretty steadfast in letting the media know and letting these outlets know that and in his words, that there is no conspiracy, that there is no anything cover up with the FBI. So pretty interesting, because people have been putting that out there, and I think people are going to believe what they're going to believe, but these are the facts that the officials are putting out there. So hope you were able to take this in. I saw that our stream kind of buffered for a little bit in the middle, and I'm unfortunately, because I was able to hear it on our end, but there was just a little bit, I think, that went out for a second. But definitely an important one, and I think it's sort of clear that there are still a lot of questions to be answered and more details to come out about this man, this suspect, Stephen Paddock, and his motive and more about his life and where this all came from after the massacre shooting on October 1st in Las Vegas. So more on that, of course, as we have more updates here in the digital newsroom. We'll bring you live on our stream. As always, really glad that we were able to sneak that into the stream today. So now it's 2:30 Eastern time, guys. We're going to bring down the show for the day. But if you're on with us for the first time, welcome. And if you want to check into our show, you can press that red button that says subscribe at the bottom of your screen, or right below, rather, my face here on this video, and you can be part of our channel to see when we go up during the week to bring you all these live events and press conferences, whether it be breaking news or politics or whatever it may be that is live coming into our newsroom. So with that, guys, we'll check it up, check in with you guys on Monday. All right, see you then.